Hello there, folks. Welcome to the Thursday edition of the Whitfield Report. I am your host, Sam Whitfield, back at it after a week-long vacation, which is funny because it feels like I've been gone for more than a week, but in fact, it has been exactly 1 week since I left for my trip in Michigan. I was there for a long weekend, and I went and saw my grandmother, who is now 90 years old. And when you get to that point in your life, folks, when you have grandparents or parents that get to be that old, you just never know when when their time is up. So best to see them whenever you can, and treasure as much time as you can with individuals. So I enjoyed that, visiting my grandmother. It was great to get up to northern Michigan. I haven't been up there in a few years, so that was nice. It was also very nice to kind of take a break from politics and, the culture war and all the stuff that we deal with as politicos on a regular basis. But as predicted, I could not help but notice that there were some significant events that happened while I was gone, or at least one happened over the weekend while I was gone in Michigan, and I'll get to those in a sec. But first off, as always, contact info. You can follow me on Twitter at SamW_NDC. You can also follow me on Instagram at the same handle. You can follow me on Gab and Minds at Sam Whitfield. And you can also follow the show on Facebook at facebook.com/Whitfield Report. Like the page there. And thesamwhitfield.com is the website where you can read the blog, which will be getting updated here soon, and with another post. And you can pretty much find all my other social links there. And as always, folks, you can also subscribe to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Whitfield Report, and that's where we have the live podcast every Saturday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. So I'm going to be getting back into that this weekend because I have more or less taken the last week off. And I'll have some more announcements at the end of the show, but I figured that I would save those at the end of the show. But for right now, I do want to dive into some topics that I missed, or rather did not cover on Saturday because I was gone this past weekend in Michigan, as I mentioned. Most notably, the incident that happened while I was gone was Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his cell. Allegedly, he hung himself and was successfully able to commit suicide. According to officials, quote unquote. Now, this has, of course, prompted a wide variety of conspiracy theories, even from people who aren't usually prone to suggest conspiracy theory happening and whatnot. But even this death was a little weirder for most people than usual. Jeffrey Epstein had been on suicide watch. Apparently, he had attempted suicide once before, as I reported a few weeks ago on the show. And so he got put on suicide watch, and then last weekend, while I was in Michigan, I saw on Twitter that he actually did quote unquote commit suicide. So the FBI is now investigating, if his death was actually suicide or if someone got to him. And one thing that people are jumping to immediately, at least on the right, is the fact that the Clintons are behind this. Right, the Clintons are already getting blamed for this, and anyone who knows me knows that I am by no means a fan of the Clintons at all. As I've stated numerous times before, part of my reason, one of the big reasons why I voted for Donald Trump in 2016 was strictly because I hated Hillary Clinton, and I still despise her with a passion. I think she's a horrible leader, a horrible politician, and even a horrible human being, to be honest. And I don't say that about very many people, but she would certainly be one of those. But with that being said, I don't think that the Clintons were behind Epstein's suicide, and I'll get to why that is in a second. Then you have the left, on their side, claiming, oh, well, Trump knew Epstein too, and, Trump had him suicided because Trump didn't want, his antics being exposed because he was probably on pedophile island too. So, first off, I don't think Trump or the Clintons were responsible for Epstein's death, per se. I don't think, I mean, what you have to understand is the number of people that Epstein allegedly had on this private sex slave island of his, the number of high powered people supposedly was quite large. It wasn't just politicians and presidents, but we've also been told now that there were perhaps actors or and movie stars and other celebrities and bankers and sports figures, and the list kind of goes on and on. Especially people who were in the world of high finance, like Mr. Epstein himself. So I love it when people automatically jump to the conspiracy theory that it must either be Trump or the Clintons, because those people are the only two who would have any motive to kill Jeffrey Epstein at all. And like I said, I'm not, a fan of the Clintons by any means, but I don't think that they're responsible for that. And the main reason why I don't think they're responsible for this is most of them are, and I explained this a few weeks ago, the first time when Epstein attempted suicide. I stated that if the Clintons did kill Jeffrey Epstein, and let me be clear on this point too, I do believe that the Clintons probably have had people killed in the past, which is one of the reasons why I despise them. I don't think that they're beyond killing people just because they're that hungry for power. But I don't think Epstein was one of their victims, quote unquote. And the reason why I don't believe that is, if it was them, they would have hired someone who did it right the first time, I would think. And I know that sounds awfully cynical, but I think that's probably the case. Uh, that Epstein would have been dead the first time. But more importantly than that, and I stated this a few weeks ago as well, at this point, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think that the Clintons really have the motivation or a motive to kill Epstein. They have nothing to gain from it, and they don't have anything to lose at this point from Epstein exposing their behavior. Perhaps other than prison. I guess that would be the one kind of motivation that they would have, maybe to shut Epstein up. But even that one, I think is a little bit suspect because folks, if they wanted Epstein dead, I think they would have done it years and years and years ago. I don't think they would have waited until now to have Epstein killed off, right? And as I said a few weeks ago as well, and this is especially important as we continue to keep track of all this Epstein stuff. I don't think that the Clintons had a reason to kill Epstein because, let's face it, the Clintons have no political power left in the United States, right? Hillary Clinton lost the election in 2016. Granted, it was a major blowout. She didn't get beaten in a landslide, but it was pretty sizable. And as numerous commentators have said before, I think it just goes to show how much the country really despises Hillary Clinton, that a billionaire, reality TV star like Donald Trump could beat her out for the office of the President of the United States. I think it really does reflect poorly on her and her character that Trump was able to beat her, in the way that he did. Which I think is great. That Trump did defeat her. We've discussed that plenty of times. And I think that Clinton knows deep down that she's no longer wanted, by even the Democrat Party. Sorry there, folks. I'm yawning a bit tonight, I will admit, while I'm recording this podcast. But I think even the Clintons have to admit to themselves at this point that they're not wanted by the American public, and so that was why they shut down the Clinton Foundation too. They're not wheeling and dealing, and who knows what illicit stuff was going on in that organization too. The Clinton Foundation, has been rumored to have laundered money for tons of illegal activities. That's not just a right-wing conspiracy. There were a lot of people, even independents, believe that the Clinton Foundation was pretty shady, and the fact that it shut down more or less a week after the presidential election was even more shady. So, why would the Clintons wait so long to kill Epstein if this was their doing? It doesn't make any sense. They don't have the political capital. All right. So, with all that being said, let's go into why I don't think Trump is, responsible for this. And, obviously I'm a bit more of a Trump fan being a conservatarian than I am of the Clintons, but, let's just address that first and foremost. The most obvious reason why, Trump wasn't responsible for having Epstein killed is because he most likely wasn't on the island. And how do we know this? Because if there were any rumors or any documentation that Trump had supposedly been at Epstein's private island, we would have heard about it months and months and months ago when Epstein first got arrested, and it would have been all the CNN and MSNBC and the mainstream media that hates Trump. That would have been all that we were hearing about for weeks on end, right? They would have blown out of proportion, but there's not a single shred of evidence to suggest that Donald Trump was somehow at Epstein's pedophile island. And also, there's been no, suggestion in the past that Trump likes underage women. However distasteful you may find the president's personal life, and he has been pretty open about the fact that he's had affairs and whatnot. It just seems that most of his relationships were overage and pretty much consensual. He even famously outed himself on a hot mic that rich women and Stepford wives would let him grab them by the pussy because he's rich and because he can do it. That gaffe, I would have expected it to destroy anyone else. Even back then, I was kind of like shocked that didn't destroy him. But basically, the one thing I will say for Trump is that he really kind of lets his own skeletons out of the closet, and whether or not you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's just kind of how he is. And so, the Epstein thing, I don't think he was involved in that. Also, he did mention, like, back at the Republican National Convention, I think it was in 2016, maybe before then, he did mention that Bill Clinton had ties to Jeffrey Epstein and the supposed, pedophile sex island. So why would Trump have, why would Trump have mentioned that if he himself could also get caught into Epstein's web? It doesn't make any sense. And, like I said, I think the media, the mainstream media at least, would have been pushing the, Trump pedophile narrative over and over by now. If there were even a shred, they would be going after Trump over this with everything that they had. So Trump's not involved and the Clintons aren't involved. So now let's talk about who I very well think could have been involved in the, alleged suiciding of Jeffrey Epstein. And folks, the most obvious example I can think of is Hollywood, to be honest. So far, the names of the people who were allegedly at the island, from what we've been able to gather off some websites like 4chan and 8chan, they've supposedly looked at these manifests and haven't been able to find anything related to Trump, but they have supposedly found some list of pretty famous celebrities and movie stars and other people in the entertainment industry. And so I think it was probably more plausible that the entertainment industry tried to do Epstein in because, we've also had to deal with the whole, Weinstein Gate thing and the Me Too movement, a few years ago. It was, it was revealed just like a short year ago that Harvey Weinstein had been exposing himself to actresses and abusing them and abusing other women in Hollywood. And so, he's been under investigation for that. Kevin Spacey has been under investigation for for being involved with pedophilia and possibly being involved in a pedophile ring. And, we've heard numerous other, allegations for years and years and years about Hollywood and celebrities at Epstein's private island. So it wouldn't really doubt me. It wouldn't really surprise me if some of these wealthy individuals had connections to be able to have Epstein off and make it look like a suicide. And that's actually something that the novel LA Confidential that I mentioned a few weeks ago when I was doing my book review series of James Ellroy. That's actually one thing that LA Confidential and really American Tabloid and all those books goes into greater detail about how the Hollywood elite would in fact have people killed from time to time to keep their own interests, hidden and whatnot. And it probably still goes on somewhat today. And it wouldn't surprise me if Epstein knew some dirty secrets out of Hollywood and was planning on exposing them and whatnot. There's also been rumors that like Epstein was tied up in like some intelligence agency leak and other shady dealings and all sorts of stuff that was just very illicit. Overall, though, folks, the whole thing with Epstein is it's basically all purely conjecture at this point. What happened to him and what he was involved in. None of it's good, and I do believe that if any headway actually is made on the Epstein case, that heads are going to roll, metaphorically and maybe even literally. This guy was connected to a bunch of people in power in, politics and in the media and in entertainment. And, just on that note, it's, like I said, it's funny that people are so focused on either just the Clintons or either just Trump being connected to this guy when clearly, multiple people from multiple, fields and areas of influence were connected to Epstein. And, if that's not troublesome to you, that basically all the big holes of power are connected to this guy, then, I don't know what else is troubling. But, anyway, at this point, folks, the Epstein thing is all conjecture. I'll probably get into a little more on the Saturday show if, I find anything more out about this, and I was going to try and get David Crocco onto the show to talk about Epstein, because he's he's been covering this pretty well in depth. So I'm still trying to get a hold of him to arrange for that podcast to happen. But at this point, are dealing. So if it happens, it happens. But at this point, folks, this is just my initial kind of conjecture about Epstein. Something definitely did happen, in regards to him, being suicided by one of the elite power structures. That much I am sure of, but I'm not sure of who's quite responsible for it. So I will keep that. I'll keep tabs on that for you guys, and I'll let you know if there are any updates. And hopefully we'll also have David Crocco, or I've reached out to a few other experts on Epstein to come on the podcast. So hopefully they can do that. And as far as this episode goes, I mainly wanted to focus on Epstein. So, this is going to be a shorter Thursday podcast, like the last couple ones are, but I did want to, I did want to put out a podcast, and I did want to address the Epstein thing a little bit for you tonight. And so, folks, with that in mind, we're coming up at the end. As I mentioned at the beginning of the program, I do have some announcements to make. So the first big announcement, people have been asking, are you going to go on vacation anymore? Are we going to be missing any more podcasts? And, folks, the short answer is no, I'm not going anywhere for the foreseeable future. At least not until Thanksgiving or Christmas. I am here to stay in Florida, and I am, here to keep doing the podcast on a pretty regular basis, I think. With that being said, I'm flattered that you guys all miss me, and we're all anxious, for the podcast to get started up again. So I want to thank you for that support, and thank you for listening to last week's episode as well, while I was gone. But I will be back, and hopefully I'll be getting some more guests here as the school year starts, and whatnot. I'm hoping to get, maybe the Versa guys to come on the Versa Media guys to come on the show. Before the school year starts, or right as the school year starts. And that'll be the other thing, is once the school year starts, I believe it or not, folks, I actually am going to be able to do the show a lot more regularly. I know that seems kind of counterintuitive. You would think, with it being summer, I would have more freedom to do the show, and, in a sense, you're right, but also a lot of the guests are traveling or, preoccupied with other things during the school year. So, now that summer's kind of winding down, everybody's getting back kind of in their regular routines. So that means they'll be able to hopefully appear on the podcast more and make some guest appearances on here. So I'm looking forward to getting more guests for the podcast and whatnot. So that'll be great. And the other announcement that I do want to make is a couple of things. First off, I was able to, I just renewed the domain for the website, thesandwichfield.com. And of course, I do that every year. But what's notable about this year is the first time when I was able to basically renew the domain and have the cost of the domain come completely out of the show expenses. and most of that was off of the ad revenue. So, folks, I want to thank you for supporting our sponsors once again, and just for supporting the podcast, because in effect, the show has now paid for itself in a small way. Not only that, though, not only was I able to pay for the website domain and renewing that, I was also able to get a new recording program that I'm actually using on my iPad to record the audio episode for Thursdays now. So I'm trying that. I'm actually recording this episode on my iPad using this new audio software I'm using, and using a microphone. So I did a few test episodes and it sounded pretty good. Hopefully this will sound just as good. So let me know what you guys think of the new audio quality and on the Thursday show, and if you like it, what you guys think of it. And I'm really excited for this new setup. And as far as the live show goes, folks, I still am going to try and do a live show and a live stream at least on Saturdays. YouTube is kind of in flux right now because they're changing a whole bunch of things. And, with all of the political drama, with YouTube censoring conservative and libertarian channels, I am finding that I'm going over to the audio podcast format more and more again. But I am still going to do live streams on Saturdays for sure. And, maybe just some, live stream chats, which of course will port the audio, and for you guys here on the podcast feed as well. So, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, long story short, I am back and I am happy to, be kind of starting the podcast and keep doing it for the remainder of the year. I'm going to have some great guests. I'm going to have some great shows coming up in the remainder of the year. And I want to thank you all for being aboard and, being a part of this. If you would like to, support the show, you can do that either by supporting the show on PayPal for one-time donations at paypal.com/WhitfieldPod or anchor.fm/Whitfield Report. You can also find all the donation links on my website and on the YouTube page as well. So anyway, folks, I want to thank you very much for listening. From all of us here at NGC Studios, have a good day, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the past, present, future hour. Thank you very much for listening. God bless. God save this great nation. God, freedom, democracy, in that order. God bless you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you on Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time on the YouTube channel. Until then, take care and God bless.